Hello, in this short course I'm going to create what I call a tapestry, paper tapestry, or maybe a bit of story art. So I'll show you what I've got here. I've got a story of Somerset really, set out a little bit like a textile, but a little bit like the kind of Bayer tapestry I'm thinking. So I've got elements from Somerset that I like, so things that interest me. For example, I've got Glastonbury Tor, got a little row of houses by along the levels. I've got the starlings, I've got cheeses, I've got the trees on top of the quantocks, cows, pears. That is supposed to be the scissor arch in Wells Cathedral. But you see what I mean? I've put together a number of simple elements which kind of tell a story of how I see Somerset. And I've done it in a very kind of simplified and stylistic way. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing you could do, I've done, this is all about my life. So this is a kind of tapestry, paper tapestry, things to do with my life. So I've got members of my family, a pet, things I'm really interested in. So trees, my house, this is all to do with art, paintbrushes. That is supposed to be a wolf. So I've got boats and bicycles and a kind of simplified pattern all the way around. So there's two things. You could make it all about your life, or you could make it about the place where you live, or a kind of mix of both really. So I'm just going to show you how I might start going about making something like this. So first thing you've got to do really is make a list of what you'd like to put in there. So for example, if I'm doing something like this Somerset one, I've got the tor, I like the willow trees, I like the cheeses and quantocks and cows. And then I've got these sort of elements of willows and apples. Oh, I've got a little bit of Sheppey cider up there. So I get an idea of what I'm going to put in, and then I'm going to just do a kind of very basic plan on a piece of paper first before I go in. So I like the idea of creating a kind of frame first around where I'm going to put my main elements. Can we see that? So this area around the edge is going to have decorative kind of plant type things, and then maybe a bigger picture here. So that's where I thought I'd put my picture of the tor. Sometimes I needed to just check something on Google it to work out what something looks like, but I know what the tor looks like. It's been up many times. I've got a little row of houses. I like the idea of small things and one or two bigger things. So I'm going to make little boxes like that, so I know what I'm going to put in each. I've got my little row of houses that you get along the levels, my birds flying up there, cheeses, quantocks, and some cows. And the cows kind of break out of that frame. So you see what I mean? I've done a little bit of planning before I kind of wade in on my good piece of paper. So I'm going to just put that there. Now, I'm not going to use all of this piece of paper, but I might do. I might stretch out. So I'm just going to plan out, to start with, a kind of box of how I'm going to draw it. Now I had that framework here. Now don't use a ruler when you're doing this. We want it to look kind of a little bit like the Bayer tapestry or some kind of old tapestry. So straight lines are going to make it look too kind of tidy and neat, and that's not really what we're going for here. I like another little section down there maybe. You can keep adding to your frame if you've got space. So I was thinking I'd put my Glastonbury Tor in there, row of houses, row of birds, row of cheeses. I've got the quantocks, didn't really leave enough room, so I'm going to put... And then you're just going to sketch out very lightly, because mostly what you want to see is the painting. Now, when you are drawing something that's going to be used as painting, firstly you need to do it very faintly so that you can't see the pencil marks. But secondly, you need to be kind of thinking, right, I'm going to use this brush to do the drawing with. So I don't want anything too detailed because that's going to be too fiddly. I want all the lines really to have the same thickness to give it this kind of a graphic style, really, is that all the lines have the same thickness. So don't draw anything too fiddly, but also it's busy. I don't want, what you're trying to get is the same quality of line and the same density of things going on throughout, if that makes sense. So I've got my little Glastonbury tour here. It's kind of slightly different, that one, because it's got space around it whilst everything else hasn't. My little tower on top. A little arch, I think you can see from way off, and you get that nice little path that you can see. Okay, and then I've got my bottle of Sheppy's cider there. Quite like the idea of getting words on here as well. So I'm going to write Sheppy's up there. Can't fit it across, but I might fit it there. Sheppy cider, could write cider. Okay, and I quite wanted to write Somerset, so that one I've written Somerset across, but I might write Somerset here now. Somerset. Okay, and then I'm going to draw some apples. Again, it's all simplifying. There's a sort of naivety to this. Okay, now when I've drawn out lightly all the little ideas I want for here, I need to get a thicker brush. So for this, all you're going to need is a bit of cartridge paper, a thick brush and a thinner brush, and some basic paints. I am just using a very old pot of kind of school paints, really. That's really all you need, or an old pot of watercolours would also be fine. Now what I'm going to do is put a base colour on this. I don't want it just painted on white. So this is the only thing you're going to need the big brush for. I'm going to use a pale colour as my base that I can paint over the pencil marks. I'm going to add a tiny bit of a different colour in, just to give it a bit of some slightly different tones, but not great big sort of slashes of different colour. I'm trying to get a bit of red into there. There we go. Slight bit of red, but not much. So this is quite watery, and just going to cover the whole thing, and then that will need to dry before we can go on with the next part. So a bit blotchy is okay. Makes it look a bit like an old document. I mean, you could use tea or something if you wanted, but I like to use different colours. So this one obviously was the blue, a very pale blue with the green. That one was a yellow with a bit of red as my drawing colour. Okay, so that is part 1 pretty much done, and we have to wait for this to dry, and then I will see you in part 2. Thank you.